we go. Awesome.
That is good.
So
Good and energizing, right?
Indeed. Yeah. My heart, I just felt a little uptick there.
Yeah,
So I needed that. It's been quite the week already.
it has. It
A
really
lot going
has.
on. Lot going on. Anyways, thank you, GEOHOLICS, for listening. Episode 253.
253.
253. Man.
Got a good one lined up.
This is gonna be fun.
It's been a couple weeks since we've been in studio, right?
It has,
It
yes.
feels
And
unnatural.
I think I'm just now getting over my hangover from the last time we were in studio. That was quite a night.
Yeah, that was fun. That was one
Indeed.
of those where we finished and then we started recording again just because we were having so much fun
Oh my
talking.
God.
Like the overtime, we can't release those because
People
it
would
was
pay
quite.
for that.
I know they would pay, but
It wouldn't be good for
we've been
us.
talking about having like a paid premium content thing.
Yep, yep.
Maybe that's it. I mean, I don't think anyone could understand what you or I was saying at that point, but
Wouldn't have been good.
we had a lot of fun.
It was so much fun. Anyways, this is when I do the episode sponsor,
Yes,
MLID,
Emily.
of course. Their big thing right now is this Wingtra ground.
Yeah, we talk about it.
Super cool. You know, it's all-in-one kit for aerial surveys. Combines everything you need to set up ground control. The GNSS receivers, of course, made by MLID, and it also gives you like the checkpoints and all the necessary tools to set up a aerial survey properly.
It's like aerial survey in a box.
In a box, exactly. It automatically connects the Wingtra tablet, providing step-by-step guidance for fast and error-free base and checkpoint setup. Like you said, aerial surveying in a box.
Yeah.
Sponsored by MLID and Wingtra.
Yeah, got to check it out. Find out more. Go to emlid.com.
Indeed. What's new, man?
Not a whole lot. Getting ready for a big trip.
We are.
You know, we heading out to Orlando for one of our favorite events and a lot of our favorite people.
We are.
You know, it's weird to say, but wrapping up the first half of the year, we're getting ready to go into summer.
It's crazy.
School's getting ready to end.
Yep.
People are graduating.
Nuts.
I mean, it feels like it just started to be 2025. It seems like the crazier stuff is, the faster it flies by.
Yep. The good news is we're to the point now in the year when the money we make, we actually get.
Yes.
Because like the first 4 months you're paying your tax, working to pay your taxes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So-
yeah. And usual for those that are so fortunate that they might get a bonus. Usually this is the time of year when those representative firms finally get all their beans counted and they push out a couple checks thanking people for all their hard work from the previous year.
Yes. Good times had by all.
Good time. What's new with you, my friend?
Oh, gosh, not a ton, to be honest with you. I've been so busy. I traveled all week last week for work. This week spent playing catch up.
Yeah, right.
And now we leave.
You basically got to the same day on your emails and got your to-do list done.
Yeah,
okay, now we're out of here.
Now
and, be out of here for another week.
But it'll be a working trip, so everything will be just fine. That song that you heard, sponsored by Topodot Song of the Week. You know about Topodot. They're the industry leader in digital twin production from point cloud data. But did you know that Topodot also offers a total data governance solution for free? They call that TopoShare. TopoShare turns your data into a valuable long-term asset. We're going to be talking more and more about that as the year progresses, for sure.
Oh yeah.
You mentioned it. We are going to be at the Topodot User Conference, better known as TUC, happening next week. May 5th through the 9th. And Ted asked a couple jamokes to do the keynote address.
Yeah, I know, it's pretty crazy. And it happens to be on Cinco de Mayo.
This is shaping up to
I know, right?
It's not going to be good for us. Oh my word! Stories to come.
I don't know if they have any good mezcal in Orlando, but we're gonna find it.
Yeah. To find out more, go to topodot.com and hope to see you next week.
We hope so.
Who was that band, Sean?
That was an old but good punk rock band called H2O. Song is Self-Reliable. H2O is an American hardcore punk band formed in New York City in 1994 by vocalist Toby Morse, who was previously a roadie for Sick of It All. H2O's music blends hardcore punk with melodic elements, contributing to the melodic hardcore subgenre. Their energetic performances and commitment to the hardcore scene have solidified their reputation within the genre.
Yes, and I was so happy to see that our guest this evening is a punk rock fan.
Sure.
We don't get too many punk rock
We don't.
fans. I love that genre. Went through a phase, of course, stories to follow. But happy that we're
Yeah.
using H2O, and a perfect time to plug our playlist on Spotify.
Always.
Search for the GeoHolics playlist on Spotify. It is amazing, and we're going to add this song to it today. So every song from every episode in chronological order, you'll find it there. Close to like 17 hours of music right now. Perfect for a road trip across the country.
It is. Or just, general relaxing.
For sure. Well, yeah, most
Sure. There's some weird stuff in there.
There's some weird stuff, but anyways, good stuff. We're in the Altera Central studio. Altera Central. I cannot talk.
I know.
Authorized because it's been 2 weeks since I had to do this.
You want me to take over?
Please.
We are in the Altera Central studio. It is the authorized premier triple dealer for survey, mapping, GIS, forensics, and marine equipment in Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, and New Mexico. We were just talking with our guest, who we'll get to in a second, who was working with his guys in New Mexico from Altera. Nice. And we have our guys here in Phoenix from Altera. Talk to them all the time. They're great. If you need anything, they come out to your job. They have a great service department, one of the fastest turnarounds. To find out more, alteracentral.com, or you could just go to the geoholics.com, click on the marketplace. You'll get to right to the links for used equipment, new equipment, all the good stuff is there too.
Half off everything.
Yes, just mention the GEOHOLICS. Say Scott Spears said I get a 50% discount.
Oh man, and you should check the marketplace tab often because we're always adding new things to it.
We are
as well. So next time you get 30 seconds, give that a look. Next up, I'm going to give this a go here. The Hexagon Weekly Pro Tip. Hexagon is a global leader in digital reality solutions. Their solutions are utilized across various industries, including manufacturing, infrastructure, public sector, and mobility applications to enhance efficiency, productivity, quality, and safety. We will also be at Hexagon Live.
We will.
Next month.
Next month,
yes. June 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th in Las Vegas. Looking forward to that. It'll be our first time at that event. To find out more about Hexagon, go to hexagon.com. What do you got for us this week, Sean?
This is a longer one, but I like it. So here we go. Every time you make the hard, correct decision, you become a bit more courageous. And every time you make the easy, wrong decision, you become a bit more cowardly. If you are a CEO, these choices will lead to a courageous or a cowardly company. That's
a good one, right?
Ben Horowitz, co-founder of, I don't even know what that is, Anderson, Horowitz, and Upsware. What is that?
It sounds like an attorney's.
Yeah, okay. I really like that quote, especially it's good. You don't have to be a CEO to appreciate it. There are times when you have to make a hard choice, or you can make an easy choice, and the hard one is every time you look back, it's way better that you went ahead and did it and got it done, and you're better for it.
Yes, and it applies to everything.
It really does.
Think about it as a parent.
Yep.
You have to make some tough decisions.
Yep.
Are you going to make the courageous ones or the cowardly ones?
Right.
Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, next up, the NLC Prep question to make you think. NLC Prep is for those dedicated to passing their land surveying exams in the very first try. What do you got for us this week?
I know you usually get these right, but we'll see what happens here.
This is a GIS related question.
Ooh, even better.
I don't know the answer to this one.
Okay. In what situation would you you missed some words here. In what situation would using a raster data model be more appropriate than a vector model?
I have no idea what either of those two things are.
No, neither do I.
I think I can derive it in my.
Well, let me give the.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Is that A, mapping land parcel boundaries? B, analyzing population by census tract? C, modeling elevation or continuous surfaces like temperature? Or D, designing a road network?
Interesting.
That would be using a raster model over a vector model.
Which one? Yes, exactly. So it'll be interesting. Look forward to getting some responses on this one. And
I got a feeling I know the answer too, but I'm not going to leak it.
Yes. And like after a week, whoever sends in the correct guest gets a $10 Amazon gift card.
Oh, is it 10?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was more than that.
Yeah. Well,
still worth it.
We can vote on that.
in the next board meeting.
The next board meeting.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, let's get on here. One of my favorite parts of the show, GeoNet count of the week. GeoNet is the world's largest blockchain-based RTK network, providing RTK service precise enough for survey, construction, and drones. Guess who I had lunch with today, by the way?
Who's that?
Aaron Mikolenko.
Oh, really?
Yes.
OG.
I told him
Geoholic.
about GeoNet, that he
Oh,
needs
I
to
am
be looking
sure
at
he
that.
is all over that.
Yes, he was super excited. Tell us about the current count, Sean.
Well, it's been a couple weeks since we reported this, and the numbers just keep going up. Current count 15,839 satellite miners, up from 15,171 last week. 4,500 cities that's increased, and 145 countries also increased.
It did.
To find out
remember?
more, geodnet.com. That's geodnet.com. Be sure to click on the Find a Hex tab to see if you can put one on your house or place of business and start making money today. I ask it every week.
Checks in the mail.
What is the latest update on getting that
Here's
what we need. That miner on the top of the house?
Here's what I need to finalize this.
Oh, geez, here we go.
This acquisition. I need your dad's mailing address.
My dad's mailing address?
Yes.
All right.
Aren't we sending one to him?
Yeah.
There we go. That's the only thing holding it up.
Oh, really? That's the only thing holding it up?
That's it.
I am texting it to you right now because I happen to know this information, and
take your time.
And now it is right back into your court.
All right. So next week, I better be prepared
Yes.
to have big news for sure. All right. GeoNet and Bad Elf, other friends of the program, have teamed up to provide an amazing offer for basically $1,000, $999.99. You get an Geode RTK service for 5 years, which is ridiculous in a good way. And GeoNet is offering to place a base station should there not be one near your residence.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really, really cool. And that's with a 5-year subscription. To find out more, go to bad-elf.com/GeodeNet.
It's really unfortunate Dr. Nick couldn't join us tonight.
It really is.
He had a last minute cancellation, so
he did.
We miss him, and we will give him shit for not showing up.
He's a busy guy too.
Everyone's busy. Everyone's got their things. So
everyone's busy.
Get it. Let's get our guest in here.
Let's do it. Sponsored by David Evans and Associates this week.
Who's that?
What sets DEA apart even more? I should know this. Even more than the quality of their work is the quality of their relationships and the commitments they make. The DEA difference is reflected in 6 commitments and the seriousness with which they make them. Those commitments are clarity of expectations. We talk about that a lot. Effective communication, accountability, collaboration, creativity, and trust. To find out more, go to DEAinc.com. All right, we've got Adam Schorger with us this evening. Mm-hmm. Really excited to have this conversation with Adam. But before we get there, a little bit about him. Born in Denver, and get this, we're going to circle back on this one for sure. Grew up in Duran.
Don't look at me, man.
Duran, Saudi Arabia.
Duran, Saudi Arabia.
He attended Colorado School of Trades.
I'm sure that's Dhahran, but
Dhahran, a School of Trades. Something about gunsmithing.
We'll find out more about that
life. And then he also went to ASU, where he achieved a master's degree in GIS.
That's Arizona State University for those.
Arizona State University.
Arizona State University.
His hobbies include going to the gym, keeping himself in shape, traveling. I love this answer. Screenless stuff. He spends 10, 12 hours a day in front of the screen like we both do, or we all do. It's good to have screenless things to do.
Yeah.
And that means no TV.
I think I'm going to get on my phone and Google screenless things to do.
No. Yes. There's going to be an uptick on that.
Yeah, right.
Currently, he's a GIS director at Orbital Engineering. Passions are family and, of course, GIS. Career highlights. We're going to talk about this a little bit more. Failing forward and hiring and mentoring the right people.
We love both of those things.
All those things. All the above. Adam, welcome to the GEOHOLICS. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I just noticed I'm animated tonight. Like I got the arms going and stuff like that.
H2O.
I have no idea what it is. Oh, it's the H2O.
Yeah.
That did it.
Yeah. You're starting to talk like me, you know?
I am. Yes, I am.
I think I know what it is.
I think so too. All right. So talk about being born in
Denver, I got to start at the beginning.
And growing up in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. So in 3rd grade, my dad got a job for Saudi Aramco, and he spent his entire career doing shooting seismic out in the fields. And And so from in third grade, he uprooted us to Saudi
I
Arabia.
did get it right.
Dahran, yeah, look at
Yeah.
you.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And I always describe it as a culture shock going over there, but when we moved back, it was also a culture shock moving back. The
Hmm.
school that we went to was, I often describe it as kind of like an international boarding school,
Oh, wow.
and so people from all over the world. I had friends from Ghana, the Philippines, Egypt, just all across the world. Tons of expats too from the United States, but yeah, great experience. Kind of fell in love with traveling and different cultures. The food over there is incredible. But yeah, definitely formative years and yeah, great adventure. So
What's your favorite food from Saudi Arabia? I've never heard anyone
Mm,
talk about the food in that area.
hmm.
sure, sure. Well, it's very similar to other, Middle Eastern food that you might get at a Middle Eastern restaurant or even Mediterranean. There's a crossover, but I like chicken shawarmas.
Oh,
There
yeah.
used
Oh,
to
I
be
love that.
there used to be these street vendors that would have these big pieces of chicken on a spigot. They'd
Nice.
also have lamb, and
Yeah.
you for a couple of reals or not much money at all, you can go up and get a big chicken shawarma from a street vendor, and that was probably my favorite food for sure.
It's making me
So,
hungry.
yeah, what was the punk rock scene like in Saudi Arabia?
Oh man. So I think my punk rock years were right after Saudi
Oh,
Arabia.
right
Oh,
after.
right
Okay.
after that.
Started
Yeah.
getting
Okay.
into Green Day and the Offspring and some
Yeah.
bands like that when I was in middle school, but really got into more of the underground stuff like H2O and
Yeah.
Agnostic Front and some of those
Nice.
other bands right when I moved back in high school. So
Yeah.
that was me. But I don't even know if there's a music scene. It's probably changed a lot.
Probably.
Kids these days, there's probably a good music scene over there.
Yeah,
So
for sure. You got to tell us about this gunsmithing
sure.
time of your life.
Yeah, yeah. So, right out of high school, kind of related to the punk rock scene in high school. I had a punk rock zine, and was really into writing. And I was part of the newspaper. Just enjoyed writing. So I thought I'd do journalism out of high school, and kind of got disenfranchised with that at college, and just dropped out. And right near where I lived, there was a trade school, and I didn't really know what trades they had available. So I just popped in one day, and they taught farrier science, which
Mhm.
is horseshoeing,
Yeah.
and then gunsmithing. And I grew up around guns, hunted with my dad and pheasant hunted and stuff like that, and always liked them. I wouldn't say that they were ever, a strong passion, but as soon as I stepped into the shop at the trade school, I loved the mills, the lathes, all of the
Mhm.
machinery, and so something just clicked, and I said, "Hey, I want to get my associate's degree and become a gunsmith." And spent the next year and a half in trade school and got my associate's degree. And through that, I really fell in love with just the mechanical components.
Ah,
So taking apart something and putting it back together.
yeah.
Also enjoyed the wood component, the carpentry. We made our own rifle in
Hmm.
gunsmithing. So it was very random, but succeeded. And after that, I applied at some jobs at Bass Pro and some other places, and it was like 12 or 13 bucks an hour. And I was like, well, maybe I belong designing these things,
Mm.
and thought that I'd go to school for industrial design or mechanical engineering. I had this idea for a trigger system where you could pull the trigger out and it basically would disable the gun. You
Ah,
could leave it anywhere,
yeah.
right? And you take your trigger with you, right? And then you come back and you put it back in, and then it engages to the sear system and or the firing pin and all that.
Uh-huh.
But so I had these ideas, and I was like, well, maybe I'll get into the design component. And while I was going to school for industrial design after that, I got in a relationship, met someone, and ended up down in Phoenix at ASU.
Mm.
Uh, and they didn't take any of my credits for industrial design
Oh, geez.
to the design program at ASU. But what would take my credits was urban planning of all
Hmm.
things.
Okay.
So I'm kind of digressing down the rabbit hole of my journey here, but but yeah, so the gunsmithing was kind of my first degree, but didn't stick with it other than hobby, right?
Hmm.
In terms of a career.
Yeah, that's cool.
And what was the program like at ASU at that time? Was it did you start with the idea of urban planning because you can get some credits and then move into the GIS program, or is
Yeah,
that all kind of connected?
no, I didn't even know what GIS was. Like most people, when they first hear it, like, what is that? Uh, but in urban planning, right around the time I moved down to Phoenix, I was cleaning out foreclosed homes, seeing a lot of different parts of Phoenix. It was right in 2008 during the market crash.
Oh, so you were
Oh, wow.
busy cleaning out foreclosed homes.
Very
Wow.
busy, very busy. And then I also got a job down there with Phoenix Revitalization Corporation, which was a nonprofit that did a lot of really good work in the community, getting grant funds and so forth. But they were heavily involved in charrette processes and kind of they had a quality of life plan, which is kind of like a mini city plan, right?
Mm.
So just getting that job kind of opened my eyes. Those two jobs opened my eyes to urban planning, and it was in urban planning that I took a course with Professor Barbara Tripodi Lori. I'm probably butchering her last name. I apologize, but I took a GIS course, and something about the program, a light bulb just went on, and I was like, if people aren't using this, they should be.
Yeah,
I just had
that
an
was the
immediate
aha
passion.
moment right there.
That was an aha moment. Yeah. And I always had an interest in ports and logistics and maps in general. So using geospatial to solve problems and using geospatial data to solve business problems
Hmm.
really just spoke to me. And so that's when I joined Dr. Nick at the ASU Master's Program,
Free
which
free
he
plug.
was
Don't
here
get used
today.
to
Oh yeah, do not get used to that, Dr.
it.
Nick.
Yeah,
But
jeez,
yes.
it's gonna go to his head.
Yeah. Didn't it? Wasn't he just in Germany?
Yes,
Oh yeah,
he
that's
was
right.
in Germany.
Man,
Yeah, he was in Hawaii. I saw him in. You saw him in Hawaii.
Yeah,
I
you
saw
saw
him
him
in
in
Austin.
Austin.
Then he went to Germany. Yeah, that
I
guy's
can't believe
he's all over the
he
place.
wasn't couldn't make the podcast
Yeah,
tonight.
yeah. What's he doing?
Yeah, right.
yeah, he's probably in Italy or something.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
but great experience in grad school. It's a great program. I had a lot of good mentors, Nick included,
yeah,
who helped me in my career. So
yep, yep. Nick's awesome.
How do you when people ask what GIS is, how do you describe it to them?
I
Or when
used to,
they ask you what you do, yeah, what do you tell them?
yeah, I used to say things like, I make maps or which is all true, right? It's the visualization of data but now I kind of turn the question back on them, and I usually ask people, does location matter to what you do, right? Does proximity matter?
Ooh.
I like this. Turn the
Um,
tables.
yeah, turn the tables back, and I think enough people try to explain GIS, and then at a certain point, the ears just shut off, and they're like, okay. But I think the visualization within maps and the geospatial component is always going to be a big part. For me, it's really about solving strategic business decisions and modeling risk and staying in compliance, and it's it's much bigger than just making maps. And so I try to early in my career I would always just say, yeah, I make maps for a living, and now I almost don't even use that vernacular. I kind of steer from that. So
Hmm. Yeah. Before we get into like the really juicy stuff, the other thing I want to talk about was something you mentioned in your bio was um, something that happened to you early on in your career where you failed forward,
oh
right?
yeah.
I love that. We talk about that
Mm-hmm.
periodically and the importance of doing that. Talk about that moment a little bit and maybe, how it's influenced you to be where you are today.
Sure. Yeah, great question. So right after grad school, I had another mentor in grad school, Ryan Arp, and he taught a course in GIS and business, and really loved that course. We learned how to write RFPs, respond to RFPs, do
Oh,
GIS
wow.
needs assessments, all kinds of good stuff. So shout out to Ryan. And but right after that, going to grad school, I had an opportunity, so I started an LLC, and the opportunity was through a family friend, some of my dad's connections from his oil and gas days, and up in Michigan, and they were a wildcatter. Which, for those that don't know, a wildcatter is folks that they do their own seismic and they go and search for oil in non-traditional shale plays or oil fields. So they're hunters for oil, right? And a
Hmm,
lot of
that's
big oil
awesome.
companies, they hire people to do the seismic, and then they just kind of take it and do their thing. But this company did their own stuff. And I was talking with them, and the company needed what I thought was a GIS needs assessment. So I was listening to them, and they use Kingdom and Petra and Geographics and iLandman and all these different geospatial softwares for different functions of the company. And so I was listening to them, and I was, kind of still plugged into my academia brain on, oh, this sounds like a GIS needs assessment, so that's what I'm going to go do. And
Hmm.
so I typed up a proposal and flew out to Michigan and went in their office and interviewed everybody and kind of went through what I learned in grad school and thought I was just doing an awesome job. And at the end of the week, I typed up a 45-page paper. This is the type of paper that if still in school, I would have got an A plus plus, right? I was really proud of it. Here's my
Hmm.
recommendations. Here's my findings. And we sat around and we discussed it, and I talked about the different folder structures and the different data types that could be shared between these different softwares. And at the end of the day, it was really a recommendation on those data types and where to save them so that everyone could access them. And this is long before the cloud deployments, right? So this is on-prem servers and stuff. And and so I thought I did a great job, and I was shaking hands. We all went out for beers. I was shaking hands, and one of the guys a little bit higher up in the company pulled me aside, and he said, "Hey, next time we want to pay someone $5,000 to sing Kumbaya and tell us to hold hands, we'll fly you back out here."
Ooh,
Ooh,
wow,
Gut,
wow.
ouch.
gut
Yeah,
punch.
that was a good one. That's a good one. You know what they
Yeah,
call that? They call that an important expectation gap. There was a clear gap in
mm,
expectations there. You
totally.
see what
Yeah,
happened there?
yeah, uh-huh.
Yep, yep.
Totally, yeah. And in hindsight, after being in consulting so long, in hindsight, I just missed the mark. And it was more about them not understanding the terminology and what GIS was. And I'm saying, oh, you guys clearly need this. And they're like, sure, yeah, that sounds right. But I
Yep.
didn't dive deep enough. I didn't really read the room. And what they really needed was someone just to come out and physically clean up their data
Mhm.
and create several geodatabases with seismic data. And that's really what they needed.
That's all they
And I
needed.
just, I did what I wanted to do,
Yep,
yeah, just coming out of grad school. So
yep.
that was a fail forward moment, but learning so much. I mean,
Sure.
there's so much to unpack there, but definitely a learning lesson and something that I'm open about, right? Like a lot of people don't like to talk about their
Yep,
failures, but
yep.
that's a good one. Like, for the youngins, learn
Yeah,
learn from me, right? So
yeah. Ask questions.
No, oh, I mean, and we love the other saying, like, take the shame out of failure.
Yeah,
It's
there you go.
okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
People don't like to talk about it because they're ashamed, but
yeah,
no, that's a good thing. People
yeah.
can, if anybody can learn from one thing, then it's totally worth sharing, right?
Hmm. And
100%, 100%. And you look at the most successful people, they always talk about failing, right? You gotta be in the ring. You
yep,
gotta you gotta put your hat in the
yep.
ring, and you gotta try. So tons of good quotes out there. I'm trying to think of one, but tons of
Yeah.
good quotes out there.
My trajectory must be really good.
Eventually,
Tons of
eventually,
failures.
all these life failures are going
Hoping,
to mean something for you,
I'm
right?
hoping.
What's one that you've had?
Oh,
Oh
that's a good
Lord.
question. You don't get asked a lot of questions.
Gosh, I don't know. I can't. What was that?
It's an email or
Is
something.
that you?
Yeah.
I can't think of one right now. I I, I only fail in reverse.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only about an hour show, so I can't get into all the ones that
Yeah,
I've noticed
exactly.
from you.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but the fail forward. I love that. Okay, we got to give you an opportunity to talk about orbital
Orbital.
engineering.
Not a
Yes.
difficult word.
What you're doing there and why you love it.
Yeah, Orbital is a great company. I was brought on about 2 years ago, just shy of 2 years ago, to start a GIS department from the ground up. So
Wow.
prior to that, I would argue that they were using GIS and GIS data. They have a robust drone program. They're using tons of ground scanning technology.
Wow.
But in terms of an enterprise geodata or enterprise GIS system or systems, they just hadn't invested up to that time. The leadership at Orbital is super forward thinking. Technology, they embrace technology, very strategic. So they brought on me to basically build a GIS department from the ground up. And ironically, you know what? One of the first things I did was a
Hmm.
GIS needs assessment.
That's awesome.
Except it worked this time. It worked this time.
Yes. Yep.
Uh, but yeah, you know, from the ground up means, you know, you're developing what is the technical career path. You're thinking
Mhm.
about what are the job descriptions, what kind of folks do you need to hire right away. I chose to hire, you know, as soon as we got into billable work, I chose to hire kind of up and coming young talent. Really proud of my team, but it was important to me to not hire too top heavy. I've been a part of growing GIS departments before, where you know you got directors, managers, project managers, and then they start hiring your techs and analysts. And I think what happens there is there's no room to grow, right?
Uh,
And so
yep.
you hire a strong set of analysts and really groom and allow them the opportunity to step up into project managers or other roles.
Hmm.
So yeah, love it over there. I could probably talk the whole episode on some of the stuff we're doing, but I'd say, you know, one of the challenges, going back to one of your earlier questions, which is how do you describe what you do for a living? Like, what is GIS? A lot of the C-suite and the executives, they are very technology focused. They kind of know
Nice.
what the game is. But when it came to working with maybe some other engineers and stuff, there was a lot of hey, what is GIS? How do we add value, right? And
Hmm.
so what's the ROI? Like, why should you come onto
Yep.
my project? And you know, it's pretty self-explanatory in my mind that a lot of the due diligence, you know, reviewing wetland delineation, all of that stuff,
Hmm.
much faster than maybe searching the catacombs of the web and bringing it into
Yeah.
CAD and all of that stuff. So, but we've had a lot of success, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a great 2 years.
Talk about, because you mentioned it about, you know, like taking like 3D scanning and stuff like that. Sounds like your company does all of those services. What is the overlap or the collaboration that takes place between the GIS vertical and the
Sure.
survey or mapping vertical? What does that look like? How do you guys benefit each other?
Sure. Yeah. So our industrial vertical, our engineers do a lot of ground scanning, and they usually are using programs like Plant 3D, Revit, and so forth. And actually, we're currently doing some R&D projects looking at digital twins and trying to step into that space a little bit. But right now, with photogrammetry and LiDAR data, just making some 3D maps. We have one transmission line project where another survey company is flying fixed wing aircraft the entire route, and then we're going to be bringing that in and hopefully save some money on some on-site trips. Right, that's always the goal
Sure.
with photogrammetry. Right. So the crossover is still growing. So if you think about it as a Venn diagram, originally there was just a little bit of interaction between the groups, and now 2 years into it, we're growing more and more, and we're seeing some more projects land where we're all a part of the problem solving, right? All a part of the RFP.
Yep. Yeah. So how are you guys utilizing it for like asset management applications?
Sure, sure. Yeah, so when you think about asset management life cycle, you got planning and procurement, and then once you kind of purchase, install, commission the parts of your asset, right? If you think about a facility or refinery or a steel mill, once the commissioning is done, there is a robust integrity inspection process, right? You have compliance to meet, and just integrity inspection. And so what we're doing is we're integrating, collecting data in the field, spatial data in the field during that inspection, and creating facility health dashboards. And what we're able to do is we're able to say it's not just the inspection data, here's where your priority issues and so forth, but now you're able to take that inspection data through mitigation and repair. And so now two different departments out on facility are using kind of one interface to say, oh, here's all the integrity inspection that we did, and then here is all of the priority issues that we found. Here's all the risks that we mitigated, And more than anything, it's been a collaborative tool for our clients to turn around and report upwards to their managers and say, hey, we do the GIS dashboards and
Mhm.
experience builder, and and so these dashboards are a great way for them to tell their own story, because a lot of times when there's boots on the ground, the operations folks don't get a lot of shine, or maybe they look at a spreadsheet and they're like, oh yeah, you guys fixed a bunch of stuff. Well, having that visual representation, almost like a heat map on a facility,
Hmm.
shows over time the true impact of the repair and mitigation process. So that's kind of how we've plugged into the asset life cycle, is right there in the middle, where you do
Yep.
integrity management and mitigation repair.
Can you dive in a little more on the applications in risk management that you've been able to integrate with? I mean, you say risk management, but can you give us an example of how can you use a GIS platform for risk management?
Sure. Sure, yeah. So we have a client that is a gas utility client, and they did pretty much a desktop analysis on where they think their pipeline is crossing water bodies, and it was probably a intersect with a wetland, right? Something
Right.
something like that. And so they said, hey, here's 300 locations where we believe our buried pipe is actually below the surface but is crossing a wetland. We want you guys to go out there and and collect data on the depth of the pipe, shoot in the signage, give us a little bit of information. But if you see anything exposed, that's not supposed to happen. So I gotta plug Altera right now, because we got our
Yeah.
we got our DA2 units and do the Field Maps DA2 workflow, and we were able to go out, thanks to Altera. We were able to set up a pretty robust. We had several different DA2 units across 2 different states going out to all these water crossings. Well, we know that the client was expecting these water crossings not to be exposed, but we did find several exposures, and in some cases, some pretty severe ones. And we were able to not only report that back to the client, but auto generate a report back that same day to the client to say, hey, these are exposed, they need attention, and basically bring the risk that they didn't know about, kind of in the jungles of Kentucky, right? And
Hmm.
bring that forward right then and there, and helps them mitigate and address that risk a lot faster. So in terms of a GIS workflow, it's the automation of data, but also the transparency the data brings, and how fast, how much short you shorten the decision making, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
before, maybe someone's out there, they find it, they shoot it in, they do the data transfer in Trimble Business Center. They send off an email. Maybe a week or two later, they're like, "Oh yeah, there's exposed. Here's some photos." We're doing it the same day.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. We talk about digital twins a lot on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
We've talked about it quite a bit in the
You
past.
said you guys were kind of diving into that.
yeah, we have a really intelligent gentleman who is spearheading some of our research and development, and he's got a drone background. He loves advanced technology. He's done all kinds of robotics and crawlers and stuff that's just over my head
It's
for
awesome.
inspection, and we're diving into that space, and I think we're going to see more of that in the industry. I think uh, if you could reduce the amount of visits, especially in refineries or large facilities that have confined spaces, and you could reduce the amount of visits by doing a 3D walkthrough,
Mhm.
understanding what's there, even planning your work before you go out there.
Yep.
I think there's a huge ROI there, and obviously a safety piece.
Yeah, I mean, those are some of
Definitely.
the least safe places to go. So any
Hmm.
less trips are, and I always thought
Yeah.
that too of the, you know, where they're needed the most,
Yeah.
right?
For sure. Yeah. Just got to keep those digital twins secure somewhere.
Yeah, well,
You
yeah,
don't want
because
you don't want them getting in the wrong hands.
oh yeah, yeah, it is critical infrastructure.
It is. Yes.
Yep.
So I heard a term recently, GeoAI. Are you familiar with this?
Did you
Yes,
just
sir.
make that up?
No.
Oh,
Yeah. No.
No, it's just I literally, yeah, I just heard about this GeoAI.
I'm gonna ask ChatGPT
Ask
about that.
ChatGPT
Yeah,
about
let's
that.
ask. I'm curious what ChatGPT says. I think
Yeah.
what reminds me of when we talk about Geo AI is
Uh-huh.
your episode that you guys brought on the geospatial attorney.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And
That's the one I do remember.
and I forgot the gentleman's name, but it was a fascinating episode that you guys did. Uh, because he was talking about imagery and licensing and
Mhm.
the if you build a tool with imagery from your leasing or licensing from somewhere else,
Mhm.
do they have a right to that, right? And so there's this really fascinating conversation, but I think that kind of explained in a sense what GeoAI is, which is a lot of it does have to do with raster imagery, but what can you do in terms of feature extraction, right? So there's all these really cool deep learning models that Esri has that are kind of pre-baked, ready for you to go, where you can extract building footprints. You could extract, you could
Yep.
put points on all of the trees along a corridor, or you could extract, if you're in shipping, you could extract the different port or ships in a marina, right? And not have to count that. And so I think one of the things with GeoAI that I often think about, or where the trend is going is in technology is how does that going to impact our GIS technicians? A lot of the if you think about it, maybe an entry level tech, they're doing
Yep.
some digitizing, they're tracing the edge of curb or planometrics or whatever. If you could fly somewhere and it automatically gives you
Mm.
all the manholes and maybe even some utilities, kind of a SUD utility
Mhm.
swath.
Yep.
Um, and that then what does our text look like? How does their job change? So
Yep. Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like that happening now,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
and it's only going to advance further. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens to like text, like you said, for sure.
Is this one of those things where we finally put a name onto something that we've kind of been using a little bit?
Is that
Like,
is that right?
so
well, the idea of the
The Geo AI you're talking about.
yeah, of GeoAI,
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
auto tagging, feature extraction
Yeah.
automatically, and some of the
change
line work.
detection,
People have been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Our
We're
good
just
friends at
now
Airworks. That's what they
exactly.
do.
I
Yeah.
know, and we're just now coming up with a name for it.
Yeah. I like it. Geo
Yeah,
AI.
and there's another popular thing I did early in my career, which was digitize land documents off meets and bounds.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how much lease mapping you guys have done, but I spent uh, the first year and a half of my career just buried in paperwork,
Yeah.
just mapping old lease acreage.
Yep.
And there's some AI tools out now where you could upload a document and it will draw
Hmm.
the polygon for you.
Yep.
And it's really cool technology. I would say it's disruptive. There's whole companies that
Hmm.
make their career off that. So
Yep.
it'll be interesting.
Yep. The key word there is disruptive.
Oh yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Better be prepared, folks. Be prepared.
It's
Well,
kind of some of the topics from our keynote
it
that we're
is.
getting ready to talk
Yeah.
about.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
think the key is embrace it. I think
Yes.
Yes.
Embrace it. 1,000%.
embrace it, use it, offer more value in what that
Uh-huh.
return means.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean it's a tidal wave. So pick up
It
your
is.
surfboard, man, and
Yeah.
ride it.
Exactly. I love it. I'm
Yeah, there
embracing
was
it.
the VCR repairman guy. The half of them went away, and then the other half started digitizing tapes to
That's true.
CD and like
Yeah.
that. Be on that side, not the other side.
Exactly. Agreed. Um, what other like really cool applications are you envisioning for GIS moving forward? How do you see the role of GIS evolving, I guess?
Yeah, I think when I some of our clients that talk about digital transformation, so that they're looking at digital twins and they're looking at their own data lakes and stuff like that. I think and predictive analytics, right? We talk about AI.
Mhm.
I think that the GIS profession is going to become more blended with data science, and you're going to see a class of professionals that choose GIS to solve a problem as one tool in their toolbox, but it's not the only thing they do, right?
Mhm.
And I think that because we've already kind of seen that where maybe an analyst in the 90s didn't do a lot of code, right?
Mm.
And now a senior analyst today is a heavy hitter with Python, Java, I mean, all kinds of stuff. So I think there's going to be a transformation of what the expectation is in terms of our career pathing, and nothing to be scared about. It's all just, it's what the kids are learning in school right now. And but the other thing that comes to mind with the future is, especially with AI, is language models and being able to extract basically a return on a data set. Whereas before you'd have to walk down the hall to the map guy and say, "Hey, can you give me all the reg stations that are within 200 feet of this highway that's being removed?" We might have to go out there and talk to the DOT or whatever. And I think in the future there's going to be language models that just say, "Hey, give me a list of all the reg stations within 200 feet of that
Yeah,
highway,"
yeah. It's
and
the
it'll
exact
send you
same
an email.
conversation. You're just not going down the hall. You're just,
You're
pushing
just
the
typing it
button
in.
on, yeah,
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
listen to me talk. Or for that matter, it's probably already listening to you talk and you mention that's what
right.
you need. And then it pops up in your inbox,
Yeah, with
oh,
an
I heard you
advertisement
say
for
that.
So cool. It's
exactly.
nuts.
So, but I think, even if you look at that language model example, you still have to set up the data in a database in a certain way for that response to happen. So
Right, right.
Mhm.
there's still database management. There's still thinking through data schema. Hey, what are we using this for? And what's the end user thinking? Again, I think all of this disruptive stuff is just gonna, we're still gonna be involved. It's just gonna change how we're involved.
Mhm.
And I could not agree more, because we've been talking a lot about this on, what the future of the, all the geospatial industry as in general. And I like how you use that data schema. Like it almost seems like all of the people in the geospatial industry need to kind of do what Adam was doing earlier in his career. Is
Yeah.
it's more about organizing data so we
Mhm.
can take advantage of the tools we have, and
Mhm.
it's just a different way to approach the profession,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, I mean, you got to be willing to collaborate
Right,
across
Yep.
the board. That's the biggest challenge,
right.
getting everybody kind of paddling in the same direction. Um,
Absolutely.
Switching gears just a little bit, you
yeah.
did mention that you when you were building your team, like we do talk about how the talent or the labor pool or the available, talk how is finding and building a GIS team going? Are there a lot of people coming into the industry, or what are you seeing out in the world these days?
Yeah, the short answer is yeah. We've hired some techs that were fresh out of school. Some are still getting, there's several master's programs. If anything, I'd say there's more now than there ever was.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of folks to pick from. I tend to navigate to folks, even if they don't have the technical expertise, have the aptitude for problem solving, and then just a gut feeling about, are they going to be a good team member to work with, right? Or are they going to get along well with others?
Sure.
So aptitude and just kind of a team centric mentality is super important. Probably more so than someone who's just an ace on paper, like they got all they're a Python whiz and all
Mhm.
that stuff. It's you know is someone going to be able to do their own research and kind of dive in and use their analytical skills for problem solving. So that's kind of what I look for. But I've seen, yeah, I mean, every time we post a job posting on LinkedIn, we get 140, 200
Wow.
applications.
That's amazing.
And
Yeah.
of those,
That
probably,
tells you everything you need to know right there.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's-
and of those 50 or so are probably, would work, right?
Mhm.
Especially for
Wow.
text analysts.
Mhm.
So then it's really diving into uh, the soft skills and the aptitude to problem solve. And the other thing I try to do is fill gaps in the overall skill set. So if my team is super strong in ETL solutions like FME and Python, maybe there's someone who's coming up that is just a beast in Power BI and macro scripts and Excel. They have the
Yeah.
Microsoft suite down, Power Automate and stuff. And so maybe it's like, oh, that makes sense to kind of round out our team's uh,
Mhm.
overall data footprint, right? Or
Mhm.
what we're capable of. So
It almost seems like the kids coming out of school with GIS degrees need to have a niche or a not a side gig, but something that they can bring to the table other than, being one of 140
Mhm.
with the same degree, right?
Yeah.
yeah, I think if for folks in school right now, whatever their passion is, if it's environmental, learn how to do some floodplain modeling, or take your focus and whatever your capstone or your major projects in school, and every project you have, just kind of hit that and bring that to the table. But I think you're right. Come and it could be fueled with your passion, but come with a niche. The other thing I tell
Interesting.
folks is throughout their career is learn the industry you're in. I've worked with some GIS professionals that are like, oh, I don't need to know what the engineers are talking about. I don't need to know what a launcher and receiver does. I don't need to know what those types of
Mhm.
valves are. But if we as GIS professionals learn the vernacular, learn the terminology, learn what those assets are and what they do, it will help us do our job better. So
Sure.
I try to coach my team to say, hey, when you're on this engineering call, take notes. If you don't know what that piece of equipment is, give it a Google search or a
Mm.
Chat GPT search, right? And
Sure. Yep.
look it up. But I think if you're in an industry, learn as much as you can about the industry. It'll only help what you do, right?
Mm.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. And you did a great job talking about what you look for in a new hire. But I'm curious, what are they looking for in a company? Like what are you hearing from their perspective?
Mhm. I think with the younger generation, transparency on career mobility is super important. I
Mm.
think
Ooh, well
when
said.
folks, yeah, when folks come in, um, if they've been there for a year or two and there hasn't been like here's the milestones you need to hit to get to an analyst two or a senior analyst. If they haven't heard that or there hasn't been that open conversation, I think obviously there's the financial component's always a variable, but outside of that, I think transparency. I also think the work needs to be challenging enough to engage folks. So that comes from a leadership role. You have to
Mm.
be able to see what folks are capable of and put them in situations that will challenge them, but also allow them to succeed. You can't throw them in with the wolves, right? And just that they're completely
Mhm.
overwhelmed. But also, if you take someone incredibly intelligent and put them on uh, something our GeoAI could do, right? Some feature extraction, and that's all they do, they're going to be looking.
Mhm.
They're going to be looking else. So
Yep.
I think transparency um, and then on what their career path is, and then engaging work. Those two things are probably super important for up and comers and to build a team that's sustainable. I mean, I like to say to my team, I hope that we get to work together for 10 years, but
Yeah.
or more. But
Yeah.
but the reality is people come and go, life happens.
Mhm.
But when you see
Sure.
high turnover rate, it's usually that people are frustrated. They're not getting any transparency, or the work isn't satisfying.
Yep.
Yeah, talking about failing. I'm guilty of that lack of transparency.
Mm.
I've had some guys, in the last few years where
Sure.
it's you end up talking to them because they're not happy or they put in their notice to leave and it's
Mm.
like, yeah, I just didn't think I had anywhere to go, and I'm like, what are you talking about? You were gonna be in here and here. It's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know any of that. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
well, that's
Like, yeah, just tell me.
yeah,
Yeah.
I should probably should have laid that out for you a little better. And sometimes and this is a question for Adam too. Do you think it's a generational thing
No, it's
that the
not.
the the, the, the younger generation
No.
needs a more of a clear roadmap, or is that just something that we should have been doing the whole time and everybody wants a clear,
I think everybody
transparent
does. Yeah. Just good
roadmap there?
communication. It's like when I ask you to do something, you do it. Just let me know you did it.
Oh, now see, that
Yeah.
would take all the fun out of you wondering if it was done or not.
That's
Yeah,
not micromanaging. That's not micromanaging.
maybe it is a human thing. I guess maybe I'm aging myself here, but I guess I thought it was more of a generational thing. But
I did
I think
too.
everyone appreciates that level of transparency. Maybe folks who have been through some really bad cycles of industry, who are a little bit older and they've kind of seen like, oh, what it's like to not have a job in a recession or something. They might be more prone to hang on to something and not kind of
Mm.
bounce around, so to speak. But so I guess I did see it as a generational thing, but you can't kind of make me rethink that. Maybe it is just a
I think it
human
is.
trait. Yeah.
I think it is. So there's a lot going on in the geospatial world in general. GIS is a huge part of that. Surveying is a huge part of it. 3D scanning is a huge part of it. There's so much happening. We're collecting so much data. What are some of the challenges you see moving forward? I mean, this is a good thing, but it's
Mhm.
also potentially, a bad or a challenging thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, some immediate challenges are the different platforms that might not have synergies, and then just the lack of the right stakeholders sitting in the room to say, okay, you're using this platform, I'm using this platform. How are we going to share data? There is more applications uh, for cross software.
Hmm.
CAD, AutoCAD has the desktop has a Esri plugin now, right? So you could actually host vector data in an Esri enterprise database and then bring that into a CAD drawing. Um, but I do think that it kind of boils down to what we talked about earlier, which is how are we organizing the data, and what is the data being used for? And I think you're absolutely right in that there was a quote that in like the last 5 years we've had 90% of the world's data ever, right?
Yeah.
Something like
Yeah.
that. So companies are inundated
Crazy.
with data, and I think
Yep.
where people are going to be successful are there's another quote that is if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. You guys might have heard that
Oh
before,
yeah.
but companies they're like, oh, cool, technology, and then they're
Mhm.
inundated with data, and
Yep.
and and if you can't help the executives in the C-suite on how to slice and dice that data and serve it back to them, and here's what you need for your decision for your piece of your company, in I think that's where people are going to win
Yep.
is being able to make sense of the data quickly, and put it in the hands of decision makers in a very palatable format. I think that's going to be key. I know this because I see it. Companies that maybe have never talked about a data lake before are
Mhm.
now talking about it. Companies that aren't even that big are talking about getting their own data lake. So
I'm sorry.
also
What is that? What did you say? Did you say a data lake?
a data
Like
lake,
well,
like a sea of data. Um,
yeah. What is
Yeah.
you're using that term? And maybe I'm an idiot here, but I don't
There's
exactly
no
know what a
maybe about that,
data
but
lake is.
Yeah, a data lake. One way to explain it is a cloud hosted uh, storage environment for data from multiple different streams that is accessible for you to pull in to different analytical platforms
mm,
or for different needs. It's also a way to store very large data sets, big data that is has some scalability to it,
Okay.
and I know enough to know what I don't know, and so there's a whole IT side of that question.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah.
I do know that companies are onboarding these large cloud solutions, and I think Snowflake is one of them, and there's a few out there that folks are going to. Actually, I was talking with a buddy of mine in Denver, and he just landed a job at a construction company bringing GIS to construction, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
But he was in between work when I was talking with him, and I was like, "What are you up to?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm actually just about to go into a Snowflake conference or a session or something." So he even was thinking, he's like, "I don't know too much about this data lake stuff, but I need to start learning about big data because I think that's the world that we're living in, right? There's just data everywhere." So
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
That's for sure.
And I mean, just think about that. If it's the last 5 years, we've collected 90%. What
it's
the
That's the
wild.
next
thing.
5 years is going to be, and then
Managing it.
and then I think the rest of the geospatial industry is going to be looking to the GIS industry of
Hmm.
how do we keep track of all this? Like I've got
Hmm.
all this stuff, and now it's just
Yep.
it's terribly organized and inaccessible and
Hmm.
inefficient, and it sounds like from Adam that they kind of have it figured out, and that's kind of what they do. And I think that might be the way that we
Could be
finally get these
everybody to
yeah to
talk and be friends.
start playing in the same sandbox,
Yeah.
so to speak, or maybe it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
playing in the same data lake.
The same thing. Just don't
There you
drown.
go.
Yeah, right.
Don't drown. Oh man. What else? You got anything else, buddy?
I mean, we can always ask. We can keep asking all kinds of questions. What about you, Adam? What else do you, what else would you like to get out there to the audience about, maybe about what it is you do, or maybe some of the cool things that you've seen in your business?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the messages, and maybe not my mantra. We'll get to that, get at that at the end. But one of
Ah,
the
I love
messages,
experienced guests. They know what they know what's coming.
know what's coming. Um, no, but one of the common themes, and we hit on it earlier, is the perception issue that the GIS might be lower in a
Mm,
value add, that you're just making maps.
Oh, I love it.
yep.
Yeah, that's a good one. Keep
Yep.
going.
Yeah, and I think um, when I look at my team and they're pulling in API, data from API that returns JSON, and they're parsing it into tables, and then they're throwing it up on a dashboard for real time analytics or near real time analytics. Um, they're doing some pretty heavy hitting stuff that
Yeah.
Yep.
that isn't just making maps, right? There's a lot of behind the scenes automation. There's a lot of, and when I say ETL, it's extract, transform, load. We use a tool called FME, Feature Manipulation Engine. That's a very popular one. Essentially, all you're doing is you're taking data from one source, you're doing something to the data and putting it in another source in a very quick amount of time.
Mm,
And so all of this stuff is happening behind the scenes that you don't see, and then you see this dashboard of this map, and there's this oh yeah, you guys just made a map. Well, we pulled in data from 3 different sources, we did all of these analytics, and then we did data transfers, and now the output. So I think the perception issue for GIS professionals, in my mind, comes down to marketing ourselves more in line with the trends that are happening. Getting some more data science under our belt, right? Data predictive analytics, data analytics. And I'm not saying to not use GIS in your job titles, or your career progression, or what you're chasing, but you're starting to see in the industry a trend where instead of saying a GIS manager, they're calling people geospatial and innovation, or data integration is a big term. You're starting to see some name changes, kind of go in that direction. And even at a recent Esri conference, I listened to the plenary at the beginning. That's where they kind of unleash all of this new tech. And I was listening to it, and data science and data analytics and automation were terminology that came up way more frequent than GIS. They
mhm.
almost didn't use GIS at all.
Yeah.
Um,
That's changing
yeah, it's
for
changing. I
sure.
think there's a trend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that perception issue, that really what we do is strategic. It has a strategic business impact, modeling risk, and just make sure that you have a seat at the table for those conversations, for
Hmm.
GS professionals out there.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And right along with that, probably 4 years ago, I stopped saying that I'm a land surveyor. I say I'm a geospatial professional, and it
Okay.
gets you so much further in conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Say
Yeah.
land surveyor, they're like, oh, you plant trees, or you're the guy with the camera and stuff like that. When you say geospatial professional, you could probably use this and make yourself sound more interesting.
No. Um,
Well, you
but
guys.
I do. I mean, I do appreciate it. But I mean, and I want to piggyback something else on what Adam said. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes, especially in with your team and what you're doing, making a nice clean map or a nice clean dashboard makes it seem too easy. Like no one
Mm,
sees what you know.
that's a good
Having
point.
a nice cool map, no one knows how. I mean, there's a big data behind it, and then the survey yokels come on, and they put all these fancy things, and
Hmm.
they're even using less data and not as large data sets that the GIS guys are doing. It just looks a lot cleaner and simpler on their end.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, for you, the surveyors, I mean, they're facing the same perception issue, where you guys are using a lot of complicated tech. A buddy of mine, Dane Corville, I'm not sure if you
Oh
guys
yeah,
know
we know
Dane.
Dane. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's writing books with all kinds of math involved, and I'm like, man, that stuff is I don't even know if I could jump into that, man. I mean,
Yeah.
it's complex, and so there's these perception issues, different ones, but in our trade
Mm-hmm.
of a simplicity that maybe was there at one time, but
Yep.
is no longer there, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. And it's also interesting he used the word trade. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
our trades.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Or
We've
vocation.
talked. Yeah. We've talked
Yep.
about
Are we
that
are we
before.
a trade? Are we a profession? What are we?
Yeah.
So interesting. Yeah, that's another great conversation. What else, man? That was good stuff. Great
The other,
conversation.
yeah,
All right, Adam. You got something
I
else?
want, yeah, I'll just maybe leave
Please.
on a thought here is, when you ask me what is GIS, and I said, well, I often respond with another question back to whoever's asking is,
Mm-hmm.
does location matter? Does proximity matter?
Yeah.
And there was a study by MIT that we could our brain, our eyes could interpret data 36,000 times faster than
Oof.
with a visual than in a table, right? And so
Yeah.
and 90% of the data that our eyes consume are through visuals. And so I think visualizing data is very human, right? And it's a lot faster. And so when
Mm-hmm.
people talk about ROI, think about
Mm-hmm.
how much data you just by looking at a quick map and some analysis, what you're getting back versus if you try to like read that as a written description and picture it in your brain, or if you just had a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, right? How
Mm-hmm.
fast would it take you to interpret the same thing?
Yeah.
So when people talk about the return on investment in geospatial, I kind of go back to just human nature, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
our brain. If we're interpreting 36,000 times faster the data that's coming in visually than if it was written word, then there's your ROI, right? So
Right. And to that point, it's I guess that sometimes the perception is we're making these things simpler when in
mhm.
a sense we're just making them so we can absorb more information.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So
Well said.
it's not actually simpler, it's just making it into a platform and you actually learn more of it. So it's it's
Yeah.
actually more complex.
Yeah.
Well said. Yep.
Yeah. 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 Well said, Sean. That was amazing.
I try.
I have
I
no
have my
idea what you
moments.
just said,
Yeah,
but
yeah, right. What else, buddy? What else you
no,
got?
man, I'm good. This has been a great conversation. I have learned more about this stuff in the last hour than I have in a really long time. Yeah.
I,
And one thing I might mention,
sure.
Adam talked about raster and vector.
He
And
did. He
if you
did.
put two and two together,
I'm
you
gonna have to. I'm gonna
probably
have to
have
re.
the answer
I'm
to
gonna
our
have to.
earlier
I'm
question.
gonna have to listen to this about 3 more times, but then I
Yes,
think I could answer the
you probably
question from the
could.
beginning of the show.
Definitely.
I got to admit something. When you guys were reading the question, it took every ounce in me not to voice it out, and then I almost gave the letter in a gang sign on the screen. I almost threw up a hand sign
That's awesome.
on the letter, and then I was like, wait a minute, this is a quiz. Don't
Don't
do
do
that.
it.
It's spoiled.
Gotta hold back. That's
Actually,
great.
I have two final questions.
Okay.
And before we got on, you had mentioned that you had caught a couple of the amazing work that the GeoHolics did at the Pacific Rim Conference in Hawaii, and I do have to ask you from your perspective. One of the things that we talked about a lot there was this, and Kent mentioned the opposite of two verticals in the GIS world and the surveying world. From your
Yep.
perspective, do you see that coming together? Do you when or how, what's the do you see a combination of the two, and do you see a time where we won't be disseminating clearly between the two and it's one community?
I think so. I think so. There's even with some of the stuff that we're doing with digital twins, there's the field data collection side, right? You're setting control, you're doing the scans,
Hmm.
but then there's the IoT set, the Internet of Things sensors, the SCADA, the data, and so there's a cool term out there with the digital twin called the digital thread, and I'm not sure how many people have heard it, but the digital thread is that real time data. And so how I kind of have worked with survey teams is once we get the data, that's kind of our domain. But how you guys collect it, you guys are the professionals. You guys are setting control. You're doing all that stuff out in the field, and so it's easy for me to well, I have gotten along great with survey companies, and I name dropped Dane Corville, but I have a bunch of buddies in survey, and because I'm able to distinguish, okay, once we get that data, then we're, you know, then that's kind of our domain. But when it comes to everything else out in the field, you guys are the experts, man. And so I go back to that digital twin. People are doing the scans, and they're creating that 3D model. Digital thread is that real time data. It's the data coming in, and that's what I want. I want the thread, and let the experts have the digital twin, right? So
Right. And you had mentioned that when the question, when people ask you what you do, and you kind of put it back at them, is location important to you?
Yeah.
yeah,
Location's just one of the many things that you're getting in that data set. You know, you mentioned,
absolutely.
temperature and all the, the however many, and, not to talk disparagingly, but the survey guys are only giving you, they're only validating the location part. All the other things that are coming in that you're bringing in and displaying are all the other data sets.
Yeah.
Right.
Humidity and whatever else it might be.
And now we're essentially in a 4D situation,
Right.
because you have the timestamps. So when you have this real-time data coming in, it's
Right.
4D data.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are seeing clients wanting to visualize not just the change in data, but the delta of that change uh, um, in a way that's very palatable, and that does require some timestamps and
Oh, sure. Yeah.
back end back end magic.
Yep.
And
But
then
yeah,
it's not even a heat map like on where things are. It's a delta change percentage map of where the has the
change over
and
time.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
cool stuff.
It is very cool. Definitely.
All right, we do have to wrap it up. And like you probably know, we have one last question we ask everybody. Adam, do you have a mantra that you live by?
I do. Latin for is Adentis Fortuna Juvat, which stands for Fortune favors the brave. And
Fortune
I actually
favors the
have,
brave.
yeah, I actually have a meeting, and I had to rename it because saying Adentis Fortuna Juvat to the team over and over just sounded condescending,
Yeah, right.
so I had to rename it.
awesome.
But the purpose of that monthly meeting is, so I have two meetings. I have weekly meetings, the Carpe Diem, and that is our what are we getting into today? It's kind of our daily stand up, right? But it's on a weekly basis. What are we working on the ground level in the trenches? And then my other meeting, the Fortune Favors the Brave meeting, is really for us to recalibrate our bigger goals, and really what are we doing, and are we all swimming in the same direction, or paddling in the same direction. So oftentimes with the technology changing as fast as we are, we're in uncharted waters where we are constantly facing newness, and it's really just, you can't be scared of it, embrace it. And there's a good book out there, the authors, I'm spacing it, but it's called the challenge is the way, and it's kind of a stoic, adoption of some of the old stoics, but it's really about, and I think about your other guest, Colin Sellers, the Conan the Surveyor, but just about him wanting to take the biggest
Oh yeah.
survey projects, right?
Yep.
And that's what it's about. It's you have to see a challenge and say, I don't know this, but I'm going to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
And so Fortune favors the brave is a good one I like to use, and
It's great. It's an awesome. So how often do you have the Fortune Favors the Brave meetings?
once a month.
Once a month.
Once a
Gotcha.
month.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great idea. I love it.
Adam sounds like a guy I would want to work for.
You couldn't. He'd kill you.
Why can't you just say, yeah, I agree. Great
Hey, send on
point.
over your resume, man. We'll get you. We'll get you
You
going.
got
Send
it.
over the resume.
It will look different than the most of them that you see.
That is hilarious.
Is that the obstacle is the way?
Obstacle is the way. Are you looking it up? What's the author's name?
Yeah.
Ryan
Edwin-
Holiday.
Ryan Holiday, and he's
That's
got a few different books, but
The
it's
timeless art of turning trials into triumph.
Interesting.
it's a great book. It's a quick read too. It's a small one.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
With big words.
Yeah. Big word.
Small books.
Wait, no. Small words in a big font.
There you go.
There you go.
Small
That's
data
awesome.
lake. Small data lake.
Yeah, no doubt. So, and hey, thank you so much, man. This has been a really
Yeah,
fun
yeah,
conversation.
Adam has
Yeah, my
been great.
pleasure, guys.
Love to have you come back sometime because there's plenty more we haven't got to. How can people find you?
Best way is probably LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Adam Schorger, SCHORGER. Appreciate the time here today. It's been a great conversation, and keep doing what you guys are doing. I love the episodes. I learn a lot just by your advertisements. Right? I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of that company. Let me Google it. So
Oh, great plug, Adam.
yeah.
God,
We're definitely having it back.
you are coming back. I love it.
That's so good. Well, thanks again, man. And yeah, be safe.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a
Yep.
good one.
Adding value, making friends.
Check that box.
It never gets old.
No,
Never gets
no,
old.
it
And it's
doesn't.
so easy.
Well, no, you shouldn't say that because, like we talked about, just like these awesome GIS guys, they make these beautiful maps that make it look easy, and there is big data lakes.
That part's hard.
The behind the
Making friends
scenes
is
that
easy.
that no one sees.
Yes.
I also have to note there was a lot of water references in our episode, between data lakes and paddling and swimming upstream
Streams.
and
Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, just it feels waterish, but anyway, check us out.
There you go. If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@geoholics.com. H2O, self-reliable, available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, fail forward, ride the wave. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it.
Ride the wave.
Fortune favors the brave.
It
Most
does.
importantly, be safe and healthy, everybody.